Hey guys, I'm here with our final candidate for Calcasieu Parish Sheriff, Elizabeth Carrier, and we are going to talk the same 5 questions that we spoke to all the other candidates about and get her answers to the same questions regarding the Second Amendment, firearms in the Calcasieu Parish area, since she is running for that sheriff. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come sit down with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's get started with number 1. Do you support the law-abiding people of Calcasieu Parish's constitutional right to purchase and own all currently available firearms, including AR-15s, along with standard capacity magazines that can hold 30 rounds or more?
Yes, that's a legal law, and I'm all for it. I was raised in the woods, hunting and fishing. I don't have an assault weapon, I guess that's what you would call it.
That's not what I would call it, but I mean, that's what some people refer to it as.
Okay, well, it's a weapon of war, right?
No, it's not.
That's what they said.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Anyway, I don't have a problem with it. I have several friends with a couple of them. Okay, so no.
Okay. If for some reason there was any kind of legislation that was passed to ban those items, how would you handle that as sheriff of the parish?
If it was banned as sheriff of the parish, who's going to ban it? The state?
The federal government or the state or whomever?
Oh, well, they have people that they'll send in, I'm sure. Not me and not my people. I don't ask my people to do anything that I won't do. So that would be for the militia to come in and pick them up if they want them picked up. I'm not going to do it.
Well, there's no official militia. You're talking about the National Guard? Is that what you mean?
That's what I'm talking about.
The ATF, if that were the ones who would outlaw that, or Congress, of course, they wouldn't be able to use the National Guard to do that.
They got the reserve.
Well, you can't use those to go confiscate things like that. What they would do is they would petition your department, the sheriff's department. That's who they would lean on to confiscate those items. So it wouldn't be any of those other folks. They would come to you.
Well, no, I wouldn't participate with that. I wouldn't do it.
Okay. Fair enough. Number 2, do you believe law-abiding citizens should be able to give, loan, or sell a gun to a friend or family member without filling out a federal background check? And what that means is they're talking about, quote, universal background checks. We already have background checks. If you go to a store to purchase a firearm, you have to fill out a background check. It's not an option. You don't get to decide if you do or don't fill one out. You won't leave there with a gun if you don't fill one out. What they're referring to is outlawing private sales. So you mentioned earlier that you have guns. If you wanted to give or sell a gun to me, what they're wanting to do is outlaw that process to where you would actually have to go somewhere and pay somebody to do a background check before you sold that gun to me. Where do you stand on that issue on outlawing private sales to individuals and family members?
I think we need to do background checks because you don't know what the person's mental state of mind is. You may be selling it to someone that's gonna go and shoot themselves or maybe even you. So I'd like to have a paper trail on a weapon.
And just to be clear, in most cases, a background check won't pick up on a mental condition either. Most of the people are passing background checks legally, and then they go shoot something up. So again, the background check is not, I don't even think it's considered any kind of a tool in being able to determine if somebody is mentally unstable or not.
Well, I still like to have a paper trail so we'll know where the gun was the last person to have it, you know.
And what
something happened with the gun.
So what would that accomplish? I'm just curious what your thought process is on that. If you sold a gun to me and we didn't do a background check and I went and shot up whatever, supermarket or whatever, if they trace that gun back to you, what does that solve? It doesn't solve the crime because I was the criminal.
But if we had the paper trail, then they would know that I took the gun and I sold it to you. So you were the last owner with the gun.
So they would just simply satisfy their curiosity as well. Well, they know that I was the last owner with the gun because I was the one that shot up the supermarket.
Okay, but that don't mean you're the person that I sold it to or gave it to. You could have borrowed it from somebody.
But how does that prevent or solve a crime?
It won't. It won't. It'll just give you something to
So just satisfy
a place
people's
to
curiosity.
start. Well, yeah, basically.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Number 3, in states that have them red flag confiscation laws, which are sometimes called extreme risk protection orders, allow any individual to petition a court to issue a protective order requiring the accused to immediately relinquish all firearms and ammunition and giving law enforcement, which would be your office, the authority to confiscate all firearms and ammunition from people who are accused of being a danger to themselves or others. All this can take place without the accused's knowledge and without any constitutionally required due process. If Louisiana were to implement a red flag confiscation law, would you as sheriff enforce it? And this is a current topic because this has been introduced in the Senate for the Louisiana Senate this term, and the last 2 previous terms in the House, this kind of legislation was introduced. So it's on the horizon. How would your office handle that if a judge said you need to go confiscate somebody's firearms without giving them due process to defend themselves before that?
I would get the person and take them to a hospital for mental evaluation. And then I would go to the judge with the results of the doctor's visit, and we'd work from there. I wouldn't just go and take a person's weapon because somebody said they're mentally unfit to have one. Anybody could do that, okay? No, I wouldn't just go and take a weapon. I would take the person and have them evaluated. I've worked in corrections for about 18 years. I've seen a lot of mental people locked up in jail that really shouldn't be there. They should be in a mental facility. So on that note, no, sir, I wouldn't do that.
Okay. Number 4, if the non-legislative, non-lawmaking ATF were to attempt to require the sheriff's office, your office, to enforce a ruling that Congress did not pass as a law per the Constitution, would your sheriff's office attempt to enforce it? In other words, Congress's job at the federal level is to administer, legislate, and hand laws down to law enforcement agencies. The ATF does not make law. The ATF makes rules. So if the ATF were to say, this is our new ruling, and oh, by the way, Elizabeth, your office, I need you to enforce this. If Congress has not signed that into law and the ATF is just asking you to support their ruling, how would you handle that request from the ATF?
I'd tell them I couldn't do it. It's not a lawful ruling, so I wouldn't do it.
Okay, fair enough. Last one. Our neighbors directly to our north, Beauregard Parish, are an official Second Amendment sanctuary parish, which means that any new law that is passed which is against or violates the people's Second Amendment rights in any way will not be enforced with any local funds or utilizing any local law enforcement. As sheriff of Calcasieu Parish, would you consider making Calcasieu Parish a Second Amendment sanctuary parish?
I'd consider it. I don't know if I would, but it's definitely something that I would consider.
Would you be in support of it?
Yes.
Tell me why. I'm just curious why you would want to support that. If you're not sure if you would consider it or not, how would you? Well, I mean, it's a serious question.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to protect the people of Calcasieu Parish from any unconstitutional laws, the Constitution is the law of the land. So if somebody now try to pass a law, you as sheriff will have taken an oath of office to the Constitution. So you owe a debt of gratitude to the Constitution, not to any unconstitutional laws.
Read that question again.
Sure. Well, I'll paraphrase it. It may be a little confusing the way I wrote it here. Beauregard Parish is currently a Second Amendment sanctuary parish. What that means is they have passed a resolution within the parish that any new law that would violate the Constitution, that let's say for instance, outlawing AR-15s, for instance, that's a violation of the Constitution because AR-15s are commonly used in the country. So you can't, Supreme Court has already ruled on that. So if for some reason the federal government, including the President of the United States, were to try to pass an AR-15 ban, Beauregard Parish would not use any local funds to send deputies out, anybody within that parish, to go confiscate guns or even arrest anybody that might have one. They would not use any of their local funds. If the federal government wanted to enforce that law in Beauregard Parish, they would have to send federally funded people of their own to Beauregard Parish with no assistance from the Sheriff's Department in Beauregard Parish. And that's our neighbor directly to our north, sharing a border with us. Calcasieu Parish is a much bigger parish and probably equally Second Amendment supporting. And the people of this parish are curious if we're going to have something like that down the road that the parish will implement. And would you support that?
I would.
Okay. So if there were an AR-15 ban that were implemented by the federal government, you would be in favor of not supporting that ban and not allowing any funding locally to confiscate any firearms from the locals?
That's right.
Okay, fair enough. Elizabeth, can you tell the people out there that if they have any information that they're looking for regarding your campaign, how to get in touch with you or anything like that, how they can reach out to you?
They can reach out to me at 337-786-6268. If I don't answer, they can leave a message and I'll get back to them. My address is P.O. Box 5, DeQuincy. You don't see a lot of signs from me because I'm not asking for public donations. I don't want to owe favors, and when people give you, no matter what small amount, eventually you'll owe a favor. I want to make a change. And in order to make a change, I have to be free of all debts. So.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time away from your busy campaign, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's